Ozi v'zimrat yah vayehi li liyeshua. 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 Pitchu li sharet tzedek avovam nodea. Pitchu li sharet tzedek avovam odea. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. And with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
A beloved and time-honored Temple Beth Sholom tradition is our incoming confirmation class, carrying in our congregation's most precious Torah scroll, rescued from the Jews of the former Czechoslovakia as their community went up in flames. This is a powerful reminder of our excruciating past, at the same time as we anticipate a promising future with our confirmation students. This year, because of the coronavirus, we weren't able to bring in all of our confirmation students, but we are grateful to those who are here, representing our future. We welcome in the confirmation class of 5781.
We are gifts and we are blessings. We are His story in song. We are hope and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. Door by door we protect this chain, from generation to generation.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
We dedicate this afternoon's Aliyah, the recitation of the Holiness Code, Leviticus 19, to the future. Our children are the nechemta, the comfort we all so desperately need right now. We pass on the values articulated in this Torah reading, the values of loving our neighbor, honoring our elders, and giving generously to those in need.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam.
Asher b'char banu mikol ha'amim.
ונתן לנו את תורתו.
Baruch atah Adonai
Notain HaTorah.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe Lemor. Daber el kol adat bnei Yisrael. Ve'amarta alehem kedoshim tiyu ki kadosh Ani Adonai Elohim. Ish imo ve'aviv tira'u ve'et shabbatotai tishmoru. Ani Adonai Elohim. El tifnu el ha'elilim ve'lohe maseha lo ta'asu lahem. Ani Adonai Elohim. Vehi tizbechu zeva shilamim ladonai lirtzonehem tizbachu beyom zivhahem ye'achol umimohorat behanotar ad yom hashalishi ba'esh yisaref ve'im He'aho ye'ahel beyom hashalishi pigu hu lo yeratzeh.
Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam
Asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu.
Baruch atah Adonai.
As many of you know, most unfortunately, all of our students' Israel travel programs were canceled this past summer because of COVID-19. Traditionally, this is a service where our students regale us with stories and experiences of how they fell in love with Israel over the summer. We hope and pray that each of those students has the opportunity to go to Israel soon, hopefully next summer. But we still wanted to feature our Temple Beth Sholom teens and share with you the important work we are doing and they are doing to create Jewish leaders. How blessed we are to have not one, but 2 fellowships for our 11th and 12th graders to become more deeply connected to their heritage, to Temple Beth Sholom, and to each other through these meaningful experiences. We are most grateful to the Alfred and Jane Nahmed Foundation for supporting our Teen Justice League and the David Dubrow Memorial Fund and Zinn Family Fund for our Israel Advocacy Fellowship, which was started by the Bremen Foundation. First, I'll invite Rabbi Bear to introduce a few of our Teen Justice Fellows, and then Rabbi Loibin will introduce a few of our Israel Advocacy Fellows, and they'll all share something about what has inspired them through these experiences.
In alignment with our Temple's mission, the Justice League is a year-long cohort for advanced 11th and 12th grade high school students who seek to deepen their Jewish experiences of learning, service, and advocacy while strengthening bonds with their peers, the TBS community, and the greater community of which they are a part. Justice League and its service learning travel component is generously supported by the Al and Jane Nahmed Family Foundation. During last year's fellowship, we dove into a different social justice topic from a Jewish lens each month. Then, as a group, we found ways to act upon what we learned. The link between learning and action of this program is what makes me so excited to lead it, along with our Temple Beth Sholom Justice Fellow, Rachel Lillenbaum. Last year, our 10 fellows learned about immigration justice by volunteering with the Florida Immigration Coalition at a citizenship clinic, and through a workshop on xenophobia and anti-Semitism with immigrant youth from Homestead. They learned about gun violence prevention through an advocacy meeting with State Senator Jason Pizzo, climate change and climate gentrification by volunteering at an urban garden in Liberty City, adding climate resilience to the neighborhood. The list goes on and on. All fellows helped run Mitzvah Day projects as captains. This year, our 12 fellows will focus on combating voter suppression and will spearhead civic engagement efforts through November in conjunction with our Social Justice Network and our newly formed RAC Florida. Together, the fellows themselves will make proposals and align around one campaign to be our focus for the rest of the year. To speak about their experiences, learning, and growth through Justice League, I've invited 3 returning Justice League fellows to join us this Yom Kippur afternoon.
Lishana Tova, I'm Chloe Weisenfeld. I'm the current Beshti president and a member of Justice League. At an early age, I started volunteering on mitzvah days. As a part of our temple community, I was taught about Tikkun Olam. I would help deliver packages to elderly Holocaust survivors, play games with seniors at the Jewish home, and regularly volunteer at the Ronald McDonald House. At the end of my sophomore year, I applied for the Social Justice Fellowship because I saw it as an opportunity to make a meaningful impact by working on various issues in the Miami community. I wanted to broaden my knowledge on different social injustices. I did not realize how much these injustices would affect me. Among the projects in which I participated, I traveled to Lauderdale Hill, Florida, where I helped immigrants complete the required forms needed to become United States citizens. This process gave me a great sense of gratification as I witnessed the true impact on individuals. I see this type of work as something I would like to expand this year and into the future. I am grateful to Temple Beth Sholom and the Al and Jane Namid Foundation for this opportunity. I know that we are blessed, and I am fortunate that this community has instilled in me the ability and desire to help those in need. Thank you.
Hello, I'm John Tandy, and I'm a member of Justice League. To me, Justice League has been a chance to make the world a better place and to also better myself. I know that's cheesy, but it's the truth. When I joined Justice League, I expected a year of work in Miami and spring break in Los Angeles, focused on Tikkun Olam in support of both communities. I was excited to work with Rabbi Bear and my cohorts as we developed our own programs, including registering people for citizenship and helping with charity work. Our regular scheduled discussions of topics like gentrification and civil rights were fascinating and enlightening and have prepared me for taking classes that I'm taking this year in 12th grade. For me, I'd had a terrific confirmation in 10th grade, but then in 11th grade, I didn't really do much for myself as a Jewish person. But Justice League gave me a chance to reconnect with Beth Sholom and with the social justice themes that are a part of my Jewish identity. The volunteer and advocacy are eye-opening and as serviceable as it can get. There was always something to learn, and more was just around the corner. Our monthly sessions on different topics challenged me to learn about subjects from a Jewish perspective. And for Mitzvah Day, collaborating with my peers to collect books for the kids at Chapman Partnership for the Homeless became a great way to give back, and was also the last experience we had interacting in person before the wider community faced coronavirus. Yes, Los Angeles was canceled because of COVID, but we found our other ways to collaborate and give back to our community. I was honored to participate in the Flick Citizenship Clinic, supporting Miamians as they became U.S. citizens, and to work with State Senator Jason Pizzo as we advocated against gun violence. I know we all hope that this year, when the risk of COVID diminishes because of the vaccines we are all hoping for, we will be able to step away from our computers and back into the community. I learned and enjoyed being in Justice League, and I can't wait to have another year in it. Thank you.
Yom Tov. My name is Goldie Lieberperson, and I'm a senior at Miami Beach Senior High, as well as a second-year Justice League Fellow here at Temple Beth Sholom with Rabbi Bear and Rachel Lillenbaum. I rejoined Justice League for this term because I felt that my work as an activist was not done. Being an activist is not only about taking steps to make change in your community, whether that community is local, national, or universal. It is also staying updated, paying attention to the news and social media, and not shielding yourself from the problems of the world. It is about self-education, sharing platforms with underrepresented demographics, and normalizing the act of respecting identities that we do not personally understand. Being an activist is also about being an informed voter and voting for the candidate whose platform and staff will benefit the quality of human life for all humans, including immigrants, incarcerated peoples, and other marginalized communities. As a part of Justice League, I have attained knowledge about a vast amount of issues in our community here in Miami, such as climate gentrification. Although many people are familiar with the climate emergency and gentrification issues in their own respects, many people may not see how the two necessarily intersect. As a matter of fact, they intersect in many ways, most prominently in the sense that neighborhoods that the government has previously allocated for low-income housing are now areas of geographical interest for wealthy communities due to their altitude above sea level. This problem grows as the climate continues to change and the sea levels continue to rise, further marginalizing and deprioritizing the lives of communities within those low-income neighborhoods. As developers are moving in to gentrify these neighborhoods for people who can afford the inflation of the altered property value. This is only one example of how, in most situations, minorities are at the front line of issues that should apply to all of us. We as a cohort in Justice League study these issues and comfortably discuss them with peers and adults in order to help out in whatever way that we can, as well as to build our skills as activist leaders and community organizers. Recently, we've been training and preparing to open voting registration in our schools for students ages 16 and over. I see this as a crucial step for teenagers as it reminds them that they are the valued members of society who do not need to wait until they are 18 to make change in the world.
My voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. Change the world. I will give up myself. I will reach out my hand. I will use this heart I've been given to take a stand. I have a voice. My voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. I have a voice. My voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. Change the world.
In a moment, we will be hearing from 3 students who are a part of our Israel Fellowship this past year. The Teen Israel Fellowship at Temple Beth Sholom is designed for exceptional 11th and 12th graders who have a passion for Israel engagement, education, and advocacy. The students dedicate their time and energy to learning about Israel's history, development, and current events, as well as how to be effective advocates while developing crucial leadership and communication skills throughout the process. The students will share how they have been enriched in learning and growth by this fellowship.
Hi everyone, my name is Joey Umlis and I'm a second-year Israel Fellow here at Temple Beth Sholom. Joining the Israel Fellowship last year was one of the best decisions that I have made throughout my academic career. I was previously very scared of public speaking, so although I am typically very opinionated, I often had difficulty verbalizing these thoughts and presenting them in a productive manner. However, through our discussions about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I've become more comfortable in my ability to develop well-formed arguments in a timely manner. I'm extremely thankful for the opportunities that the fellowship has given me, as I now feel far more comfortable voicing my opinions in a collaborative setting. I can only look forward to watching these skills continue to develop as I push myself further and further in the upcoming year. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rachel Beanstalk, and last year in the Israel Fellowship, I learned so much about respect, humility, and Jewish pride. I went into the program thinking it would be mostly Israeli history and religious studies. However, little did I know I would be learning so many important humanitarian conversational skills, along with other Jewish values of kindness and respect. Rabbi Loibin has fostered a safe environment where our group has been able to effectively learn about many events in Jewish history. From the very beginning of Zionism to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict today, I feel comfortable speaking on behalf of the Jewish homeland while maintaining a calm and credible argument. Israel is so important to me, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity to learn more about her history. I'm really looking forward to continuing the fellowship this year.
Hi, my name is Ella Rubel, and last year I had the most incredible experience in the Israel Fellowship. I learned how to have a civil argument with people who have different beliefs about Israel, and I also learned how to have more genuine and meaningful conversations with people in general. Something that will always stick with me from this class was when we learned about Martin Buber's I-thou and I-it relationships. I-thou is a relationship between two subjects where each person is listening to one another and valuing their opinion. But I-it is a relationship where one person is basically shutting the other person out and treating them as an object, not as a subject. This I-thou relationship has taught me to be a better listener, helped me develop my conversational skills, and given me the tools to stand up for what I believe in a respectful way. I am so grateful that I was able to participate in this fellowship last year, and I can't wait to learn even more this year.
As we dedicate this afternoon's service to our love and support of Israel, we wanted to share words from the rabbi of our partner congregation in Israel with all of you, Rabbi Tlalit Shavit. Rabbi Shavit leads a Reform congregation in the north of Israel in the beautiful town of Rosh Pinah. This fledgling congregation is only 8 years old and is a pioneer among the Reform congregations in Israel. In the past year, we have been developing a relationship with Rosh Pinah, and we're so happy to welcome Rabbi Shavit here this past January. As many of you know, progressive or Reform Judaism in Israel is only now gaining some traction and receives only a tiny fraction of the government support that the Orthodox congregations do. And this is why we are so happy to help support our new friends in Rosh Pinah. And now it is my pleasure and joy to welcome Rabbi Shavit to our bima once again, all the way from Rosh Pinah.
Shalom, I'm Rabbi Tlalit Shavit from the pluralistic congregation of Rosh Pinah at the north of Israel. I'm very happy that I've got this opportunity to say a few words when a new year is beginning right now. These days are not easy for all of us. We're doing all we can to keep the congregation together, although we can't meet as we used to be at the synagogue and to see face to face each other. But we learn to know that it's very, very important to be a part of a community in days like that. Last January, I visited in your congregation, and it was very interesting and important visit for me. I learned about you, and I was very happy to meet new and old friends. And in this visit, we discussed the Domim Alike program, and we talk about our desire to keep on touch, to be in a good relationship, good connection between the two community, and to promote together some progress, some program that maybe we can hold together. Last year, you gave us a donation, and I want to say thank you for that. It really, really helped us. As maybe you know, our prayer and activities are taking place in a very nice and historical building in Rosh Pinah that belongs to the municipality. This year, we're working on raising donation to build our own synagogue. This building will be also be a kindergarten for children, Jewish and Arab, who will study together. We will be very happy if you help us to take this dream and make it to be a reality. I pray that this year will be a year of health and healing. The coronavirus will not stay with us forever, so I'm inviting you to come to Israel. And I want you to know that you have a home in Rosh Pinah. Please let us know when are you coming. We're waiting for you, and I hope to see you soon. Shana Tova.
Thank you, Rabbi, and I want to thank the teens, our Justice and Israel Fellows, who act to help connect us all to our core values. So, on this Yom Kippur afternoon, I want to speak to you about Israel. Now, I know that may not be a surprise to those of you who've heard me give sermons in years past, but you might ask, this year of all years, maybe something different. And still, I am cognizant of all the crises that consume our hearts and our minds. I find myself caught up in many fears of that which is swirling around me and around all of us at this juncture in history and life. I too am fixated on November 3rd and that critical election for our nation. And I've been emotionally torn by the pain, the hatred, the violence ripping at the fabric of our society. And this pandemic has also worn me down, narrowing my world to the walls and windows of my condo. And this economic maelstrom brings news of more and more suffering, seemingly every day. And yet, I choose to speak today about Israel. Why? Well, first of all, at this point in the High Holy Days, you've already heard the incredibly uplifting sermons from our rabbis on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And the moving and emotional prayer service that Cantor Siegel is leading is ongoing, and it uplifts us all. So on this Yom Kippur afternoon, when there is so much else I could speak about, I choose to remind us all about the importance of Israel to me and hopefully to you. Now, as I begin, I would hope you would respond to the emails about Israel bonds and the donations of the IMPJ and ARTSA that you've received from the temple and that is being broadcast to you, so that you can invest this year of all years. I know it's a hard year, but invest in Israel bonds and donate to help our congregations and progressive rabbis in Israel to do the important work of building up the state of Israel with the core values we hold dear. In 1971, when I was studying to be a rabbi, I was overwhelmed by the power of the creation of the state of Israel and the impact it had on me personally, but also on the life of our people. That year that Joni and I studied in Israel had a profound effect on my identity and, in fact, on my soul. I pledged then to always include some major focus on Israel during the High Holy Days, and I've kept that promise, and I will keep it again today. There's a famous legend, many of you know it, about King Solomon. He was very sad, and he asked his advisors to do something to make him feel joy again, and none of them could find a solution. And he was bemoaning this fact to his jeweler, Shimon. And Shimon said, well, I can give you something that will do the trick. And the jeweler, Shimon, went away for a short time, came back with a simple band. And King Solomon said, what is this, a joke? And he said, no, read what's on the band, my king. And he read, and it was 3 Hebrew words, Gam ze ya'avor. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. And he said, King, when you're sad, remind yourself that it will pass and you will have joy again. And when you have joy, remind yourself to appreciate those moments because they too shall pass. This too shall pass. I say that to you now. It will pass. It will. Gam ze ya'avor. I'm not being Pollyannish. I'm not just saying these words. I'm saying this because I'm a student of history. Our people have been around for over 4,000 years, and we have seen many crises and endured them, and we've had many successes. In time, we've seen that the good and the bad passes away to another phase of history. But speaking for the Jewish people as if I have a right to speak for the Jewish people, one thing that must not pass away, not again. Israel has been reborn after 2,000 years. 2,000 years reborn out of exile, and it must not pass away again. We must not allow it. Now, the United States of America is one of the very few diaspora communities that has, by and large, not only accepted but embraced us as a people. But I remind you, there have been others, even those that lasted longer than the United States has. Babylonia, Persia, Iran, Greece, Rome, Spain. But in time, our people found themselves once again outsiders, wanderers, looking for a safe home. I pray that never happens in America. I personally have cast my lot with this diaspora community, as well as the future of my family. Joni and I conscientiously chose to live here and not in Israel. That choice has largely determined the lives of our children, who now live in Maryland and New York and Florida, and not in Tel Aviv, in Beersheba, or in Jerusalem. However, I remain a student of history. I learn from science, but I also learn from the past. And I declare, without reservation, that the singular, most important, and most impressive achievement in Jewish history and in Jewish peoplehood since the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem in 70 CE was the establishment in 1948 of the State of Israel. Now, with the onslaught of all the media and news and irrelevant trivia that often drives us to distraction, it's easy to lose perspective on what really matters in our lives. That's true for us as individuals, it's true for us as families, and it's true for us as the Jewish people. We have had many horrible, horrific, terrible events in our long history, but we have endured and found a new place to put down temporary roots. The Holocaust is still overshadowing the way many Jews view the world, even after 75 years. However, in my reading of Jewish history, there are only a handful of events that actually significantly changed the course of our people's existence. And you know them. You rehearse them. The Exodus from Egypt, the revelation at Mount Sinai, the conquest of the original promised land, the Babylonian exile, and the destruction of Jerusalem. These 5 shaped the fate of our people from the moment we experienced that last expulsion from our homeland. We became a people of wanderers, outsiders, endlessly searching for our next Minsk or Baghdad or Shanghai or Buenos Aires or New York, all the while dreaming of returning to Jerusalem, to Zion, to Israel, to home. Don't get me wrong. We became experts at survival. We learned to thrive even as we remained strangers in a strange land, tolerated, sometimes even welcomed, at least for a while. One aspect of Jewish genius is the incredible way that we reshaped our religion and our culture to find a philosophy that built into our daily lives hope and optimism. We became the champions of it's all for the best. All that came to an abrupt halt in 1948 when we, the Jewish people, declared we have come home for the last time. In a book that was just published this year called Countdown 1945, the extraordinary story of the atomic bomb and the 116 days that changed the world, Chris Wallace and Mitch Weiss relate an incident where Paul Tibbets, who was the captain of the Enola Gay that dropped that first bomb on Hiroshima, met with Harry Truman, who ordered for the dropping. And Truman said to Tibbets, "What did you think?" And Tibbets said, "Mr. President, I did what I was told." Truman slapped his hand on the desk and said, "You're damn right you did, and I'm the guy who sent you." Now, in 1965, Truman once again reiterated what he felt about that moment. He said, "I couldn't worry about history or what it would say about my personal morality. I did what I thought was right." He's the same president who 11 minutes after the State of Israel was declared did the same thing. He did what he thought was right, and he recognized, the first country recognized the State of Israel just being born. Well, the Jewish people has come back home because we knew it was right for us. And we're building our home in our historical homeland, and we will not be moved again. This miracle in our lifetime, changed everything for me and hopefully for you as Jews. And I believe it changed everything for all Jews who were alive. My grandparents were a different kind of Jew. They grew up with a sense of fear and trepidation about being Jewish, even in America. They felt the fear of the past permeating their lives here. All of their stories they related to me had to do with bitter anti-Semitic memories, but my memories are not their memories. I'm a product of 1948. I do not carry that fear in me. Now, some Jews, many, maybe even you, still feel that fear, that trepidation. Some still look at the world through pre-1948 eyes. Some look at every hint of anti-Semitism and worry that another Holocaust looms just around the corner if we're not vigilant. And we must be vigilant. Don't get me wrong. We must speak out. We must push against those who still carry that evil seed of Jew hatred in the world. But I believe with all my heart and soul, with everything that my intellect says, everything that I've ever studied, that 1948 inaugurated the next era of Jewish history, and it has permanently changed who we are. Even if not all of us can see it today, I believe it becomes increasingly evident year after year. It testifies to how Israel itself is molding and reshaping Jewish communities all around the world, even in Israel itself. Let me take a quick diversion. Now, this year, in really my humble opinion, an absolute miracle happened. I want to relate it to you. Due to the diligence of Israeli archaeologists and scientists, a dormant male date seed that they nicknamed Methuselah, found buried over 2,000 years ago on Masada, was joined with a dormant female date seed nicknamed Hannah that was found in a cave near Jericho. And Methuselah pollinated Hannah, and after 2,000 years, they gave birth to a living, date-giving palm tree whose fruit, once extinct, was fresh, alive, and from what I read, mighty tasty. That's a miracle. That's something we couldn't have imagined. But I say to you that that miracle pales in comparison with the miracle of our nation coming home after 2,000 years. The Jewish people has come home, home to our homeland that was the beginning of our story. We left Egypt to find our home. We wandered and fought to build our home. We clawed and scratched for generations to establish that home, and we lost it. We lost it due to our inability to resist the powers of the ancient world. But today, we've come home in a different time when our ingenuity, our creativity, our perseverance are rewarded by the strength to resist the powers of the modern world. We're home. Whether you or I live in that homeland is a choice. Whether you or I support that homeland is a choice. There's no longer a choice as to whether that homeland impacts my life or your life. Israel is a fact, and it is a defining fact, reworking every aspect of our people's lives. This is true both for our people as an entity and for each and every one of us as individuals, whether we acknowledge that fact or not. The rebirth of the state of Israel has created the miracle of the reestablishment of Hebrew now as a modern living language. It has ingathered Jews, exiles from all the globe. It's made the arid soil bloom and revitalized a dormant economy. And it has an explosion of innovation that's been improving the lives of everyone and everything on the earth. And it has an army that can and will stand up to the world if it must to protect us. The Jew is once again an actor in history and not merely an object of history. I retired 2 years ago, as many of you know, and I've been thinking a great deal about home. When I was young, my father didn't sing a lot, but he had a couple of songs he sang over and over, and one of them, whenever we would return from a car trip, he would sing, "Mid pleasures and palaces, wherever we may roam, be it ever so humble, there's no place like home." I sang that song to our children when we would go on car trips and return home. What is home? Well, for me, home is the space that feels safe and warm. Home is where we feel at one. Home is more than a state of mind, though. It smells and colors and memories and touches and dreams. And the Jewish people have come home. And like every family, it has disagreements, disgraces, tensions, and even skeletons. And like every country, it has foundational sins and continuing inequities. Historically, the Jewish people built our home initially by destroying the Canaanite tribes that lived in the land before us. We built our home on the ashes of their civilization. And the home I live in now in Miami is built on the remnants of Native American tribes that lived here before we conquered this land. Israel is built on land that was previously inhabited by Arab peoples who now identify as Palestinians. You can argue that none of this is fair or just or humane. I would argue this is how life is. That which lives is territorial. Insects are territorial. Trees, mammals, fish, all things are territorial. They carve out their home at the cost or expense of other species. As Jews, however, it's not enough to say that's just the way it is. We are commanded to do better, to aspire, to elevate. We are commanded to be a light. We owe those whom we displaced more than just words. Just as America is waking up to our obligations toward those whom we dispossessed in building our country, especially African Americans and Native peoples, so Israel is struggling to find a way to work with Palestinians who consider themselves shattered and broken with what they call 1948, the Nakba, the catastrophe. Nachmanides told us how we should treat people who've lost their homeland. He said, we owe such people to provide them with physical requirements of food, clothing, and lodging, as well as to help their mental agony. Israel, like all countries, is a work in progress. She's 72 years old, and look what she's accomplished. Far more than anyone imagined. But she remains a developing country, working at both her democracy and her Jewish heritage. Now, some of you who know me know that I'm by nature both optimistic and hopeful. I truly believe, that the young democracies in the world of today, including the United States, Israel, India, Germany, Japan, and a number of others, will find a way to elevate our nations and create a far more just and equitable group of societies. I believe that. I read something that really moved me recently. Bernard Steinberg, who is the director emeritus of the Harvard Hillel, said these words. I want you to listen carefully. I still contemplate them over and over. Awe is what happens to fear when it stops being about me. Awe is what happens to fear when it stops being about me. Now, the word for awe and fear, both those words are the same in Hebrew, yirah. But Steinberg is saying that awe comes out when we take fear and move outside ourselves and recognize the world and the miraculous nature of that world that exists all around us. We have to view the world and see it in awe and not in fear. It's not just about me. Awe is what I see when I see the state of Israel. Awe is what I feel when I consider the history of the Jewish people. Awe is what I embrace, and I stop all that fear that boils up around me, and I recognize I am a part of the greater miracle of life. These days are called the days of awe, and they are truly awesome. And today, Yom Kippur 5781, I am not afraid. I stand before you in awe and gratitude. Stand with me. Stand with our people. Stand with Israel. And if you can, go and invest in an Israel bond and donate to our progressive allies of the IMPJ Artza in Israel. I wish you a Shana Tova Metuka, a good and sweet New Year, and a Gamar Chatima Tova. May you be sealed for health and prosperity in this 5781.